What it do, cuckwads? It's your boy the Hater up in this piece. And today's video is going to be an interesting one in my opinion. But before we even talk about the video, a few preliminary matters. The Hater's calculations dictate that apparently WWE 2K25 comes out tonight if one is to purchase the Deadman edition, which, you know, the Hater would have purchased anyways because it gives you the DLC, right? And apparently some Deadman pack, which can't hurt. You know what I mean? Undertaker's pretty cool. So with that being said, you know, that means that I might be able to play it tonight, which could mean midnight stream, cucks. Midnight stream for all the cuckolds out there who want to check out the game along with your boy the Hater directly at launch. Now, with all that being said, it's going to be a good time, I think. It's not going to be a long stream because we don't have the energy to, like, you know, really, like, dig through the details of the game. And I'm not sure I'm even going to do it because the game might not come out tonight. I didn't really check. I just kind of went off of what my friend said and I did some math. So with that being said, you know, we're going to see. But stay tuned for that if that happens. Now, on to the video at hand, right? We've got a lot of things to discuss up in this mug. The main thing to talk about is that, strangely, there is nothing to talk about, right? This is WrestleMania season, but you wouldn't know it unless you watch this channel or other channels like it. You would not know that anything big is about to go down in about 6 weeks unless people told you this. There is no feeling of WrestleMania in the air. When you watch Monday Night Raw, after the Chamber, for example, that episode, you don't feel the imminence of WrestleMania and how important it's supposed to be. You just kind of feel that, oh, Cody Rhodes and Cena are going to have a match, and then, you know, that's basically it. There's, like, an entire other night, you know what I mean? And there's an entire night where Cody Rhodes and John Cena are going to main event. But there's another, like, I mean, let's be realistic. Nowadays, it's probably like 3 matches, you know? Maybe like 4 matches one day, 5 the next. But nevertheless, the point stands, right? This is WrestleMania season. You know, I know it's a different time, and we no longer care about the important things. You know what I mean? The important things that matter with respect to, like, booking a WrestleMania or making things feel like a big deal. You know? The reality is that we don't live in those times anymore where, you know, JR might announce that, like, Aretha Franklin is going to sing the, you know, national anthem. Now we have to, like, settle for some broad that nobody knows. Like Elimination Chamber, it was like this nobody. She sang it in English for the American anthem and in English for the Canadian anthem. What about the French Canadians, cucks? Anyways, I'm here or there. The point is we're past those times. I get that. But what about the wrestling element of it, right? Like, for example, Roman Reigns, like, we haven't seen him since January 6th, as far as I know, beyond the Royal Rumble, where he had no actual presence. Like, he just came, he didn't say a word, he wrestled, he got thrown out like 29 other guys, and that was it. Now, with all that being said, it's like we have to kind of, like, start thinking about what the plans are for some of these people, you know? Aside from the championship matches, which are determined through, like, an amalgamation, if you will, of actual events, right? Actual events. You know what I mean? Like the Rumble and Elimination Chamber. Aside from these things, you know, nothing else has been done to further the plot of WrestleMania. Like, when I say nothing else, I mean literally not one other thing, you know? Everything has happened around those 2 events. So far, we've had basically 4 matches. The 2 Rumbles, men's and women's, and the other 2 Chambers, which pretty much determine the permutations of the champions, right? Beyond that, like, nothing has happened until this Monday, when, to be fair, the storyline was moved forward a little bit with respect to the women's Raw title, or whatever the fuck it is now, because Io Shirai, like, beat Rhea Ripley. So that's like, all right, now it's like, oh, what's going to happen next? Now, obviously, we don't care about that match or about any of the people involved, but the question still exists of what's going to happen next, cuckolds. So with all that being said, we find ourselves in a situation where we are rammed once again. You know, it's unclear what these people are going to do. Now, I understand that basically everyone worth more than 3 cents is on SmackDown. So we should wait until SmackDown to really hammer this point in. But the reality is, like, imagine if at SmackDown it's Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. This is another tally mark in the haters, category of same shit as last year. The only difference is this time there's no Logan Paul around to beat them both and treat them like the mid-carders that they are. Now it's like the two guys that Logan Paul beat last year simultaneously wrestling each other because one hates the other. Are you kidding me? This has been the entire 1 year arc of Randy Orton. His arc is lose every match that matters, right? Then form a tag team with another loser, and then that loser turns on you, and now you have to fight him at next year's WrestleMania. Just like that, a year of this man's life and career is gone. You know, that's what we're looking forward to here. It just doesn't feel like a big deal in the slightest. Now, I know I made a video that said it doesn't feel like WrestleMania, and this is not that, because fundamentally, that's more of a symptom of the problem, right? We have an issue here that goes beyond the fact that there's no build-up. This is just like a lazy ass attempt to have a big show without doing the work that, in my opinion, should be required to have a big show, right? Now, when I say big show, well, it's the big show, you know what I'm saying? But when I say that, I mean a couple of things, right? The show needs to have a structure. You can take the examples that I'm going to give and apply them to any level of a show, ranging from WrestleMania to World Cup to high school play. It doesn't matter. The philosophy is the same, right? You need to, first of all, tick all your boxes, right? Beyond the actual staff that WWE has, which obviously numbers in the hundreds, I'm sure, right? You need to get special attractions. And at this point, they probably spent a considerable amount of money getting the special attractions in the forms of the people that have to pretend, the D-list celebrities that have to pretend that they're fans of WWE. And it's like, you don't understand that this is just lame. It'd be much better to just have a real cool fan showing up, right? And be like, look at this cool fan. Instead of oh, here's the guy that got 4th place in bull riding. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody knows who that guy is. He was in his hometown. Nobody noticed. Nobody cared. And nobody reacted. Cucks. So the point is, you have to get, from top to bottom, get everybody involved, right? You have to find solutions to problems. Who's going to sing the national anthem? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Who's going to be the announcer? Who's going to be the pre-show? That stuff, all of that, they're going to figure that out. It goes without saying. But what about the other things, right? What about the other things? The main question of, if I tune into WrestleMania, in and of itself, right? Let's say I am a lapsed ass wrestling fan. Someone that doesn't watch wrestling at all, basically, right? And now all I am is a guy that watches WrestleMania, maybe the Big Four, or maybe just WrestleMania even, right? If I tune in, will I know what's happening in every story? And if I ask myself, hey, are all these stories the same? Will the answer to that be yes? If so, then you failed completely, right? Because they're going to have the pre-match vignettes. And the pre-match vignettes are going to say the same things. You know what I mean? They're going to say the same things as everybody else. It's going to be just like that. It's going to be like, oh, these two people were friends, now they're not friends, and now they're wrestling, right? What's the difference? And also, imagine if, can you imagine? There's got to be some people out there who pretty much haven't watched wrestling since last WrestleMania. Imagine those motherfuckers tuning in. They're going to be like, oh, it's the exact same shit. Nothing has happened all year. And that's pretty much the point that I wanted to make. In this year of wrestling, right, which must be considered for what it is, a year of wrestling, right? It is 1 year of, at least, we'll say bi-weekly, but realistically it's more than that because you have all the other tangential shows, right? But a year of bi-weekly television where nothing has happened. It is unbelievable. This entire year, nothing has happened. Nothing has changed. Now the dumbasses amongst us are going to point to these insignificant changes. Gunther is now the overly proud and overly serious world heavyweight champion instead of the intercontinental champion. But that's the only thing that's changed, right? Nothing has changed. The only one in this WrestleMania who has significantly moved, whether it's up or down on the card, the only one person is Jey Uso. If it weren't for Jey Uso, you may as well just not watch this WrestleMania, watch last year's and say you watch this year's, right? If it weren't, Jey Uso's the only one that has moved up the card and nobody else has moved up or down the card, right? Everybody else is just complete garbage. Nobody else has done anything to stand out in the slightest, right? They were all in the same position that they're in. If we're being honest, the Intercontinental title, the NXT title, the World Heavyweight title, the NXT North American title, the US title, and pretty much any other title that's not the WWE title, right? That's a male title. They're all the same shit, right? It's not more prestigious to be NXT champion than it is to be Intercontinental champion, or vice versa. It's the same shit. You know, it's basically like you're not champion. You know, you're not the WWE champion. You occupy some other spot on the card called the mid card, right? So it's like we just have a bunch of mid card nobodies doing the same thing again. Jey Uso, he's still a mid card nobody, but at the very least, now he's in a match where he might win a title at WrestleMania. You know, which is to him a new thing, right? He's never done it before. You know, with a real title, not the tag team titles. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, it's like this entire year nothing has happened. It's like if you went on a fucking coma, right? If you passed out, God forbid, on a coma last April, and you woke up like a day before WrestleMania, you'd be like, oh, how long have I been asleep for? A couple of days? And then they tell you, no, it's been like an entire year. You'd be like, what do you mean it's an entire year? It's Cody Rhodes versus The Rock. Like the same thing's happening. How could it have been a year already? And they're gonna be like, yeah, it's a year. They're like, you'd be confused. You'd be like, oh, maybe Sami Zayn, maybe someone came to their senses and just replaced Sami Zayn with Jey Uso at least. You'd be like, well, that's weird. I thought Gunther was Intercontinental Champion and it's the exact same storyline with Sami Zayn, right? And they'd be like, yeah, that happened. And now we're gonna do the exact same thing with Jey Uso. Grow up, motherfucks. It's time for wrestling to get a reckoning. You know what I mean? This is unacceptable. The Triple H experiment has obviously failed in a colossal, gargantuan manner, and that's where we find ourselves. You know, if people don't want to make a difference, if people don't want to, like, you know, accept it, I guess, then you're going to get what you get and you're not going to get upset. So that being said, cucks, take care of yourselves and each other.